an abusive police officer, a courageous female commander, and a colleague who dares to stand up for justice. Will justice be served? Stay tuned until the end of the video for the surprising outcome. The sun dipped low over Austin, Texas, casting a golden glow across the streets. Officer Jake Miller adjusted his rearview mirror as he sat in his patrol car, idly scanning the traffic ahead. His partner, Sarah Jones, tapped her pen against her notepad, jotting down observations from their earlier call. They were parked near Congress Avenue, where the neighborhood transitioned from modest single-family homes to upscale condominiums. Just then, Jake spotted a sleek black vehicle cruising past them. The driver, an African-American woman in a tailored navy blue suit, had her hair neatly styled, her posture upright and poised. Something about her demeanor seemed to irritate Jake. "Look at that," he muttered, his tone dripping with disdain. "Fancy car. Bet she's up to something." Sarah looked up from her notes. "She's not speeding or breaking any laws," she replied cautiously. "What's the problem?" Jake ignored her and reached for the flashing lights. "Let's find out," he said with a smirk, pulling onto the road behind the car. The driver slowed and signaled before pulling over to the side of the street. Her movements were deliberate, almost practiced. Sarah noticed her shoulders stiffen slightly through the rear window as Jake parked and stepped out of the patrol car. "Jake, this doesn't feel right," Sarah whispered as she hurried after him. "You don't even have probable cause," she said. "Stay back, rookie," Jake snapped, his hand brushing against his holster. "I've been doing this for 20 years. I know a suspect when I see one." As they approached, the car window rolled down, revealing Angela Davis, her expression calm but wary, her dark eyes assessing the two officers with quiet determination. "Good evening, officers," Angela said evenly. "Is there a problem?" Jake leaned in, his shadow falling across the interior of her car. "Driver's license and registration," he ordered. Ignoring her question, Angela's hands moved carefully to retrieve her documents, placing them on the dashboard before sliding them over. Sarah watched closely, noticing the faint tremor in Angela's fingers. Her instincts told her something was off. Not with Angela, but with Jake. His demeanor had shifted from routine to unnecessarily aggressive. "What brings you to this part of town, Ms. Davis?" Jake asked as he scanned her documents, his tone sharp. Angela tilted her head slightly, keeping her voice measured. "I'm on my way to a meeting." Jake's lip curled. "Must be some meeting. Driving a car like this." Sarah felt a surge of tension, and passers-by began to notice the interaction. She stepped closer to Jake, her voice low. "Jake, she's cooperating. Let's not escalate this." But Jake was already pulling on the driver's door handle. "Step out of the car," he ordered, his grip tightening around the handle. Angela unbuckled her seatbelt, her movements deliberate, and stepped onto the pavement. Sarah's heart pounded as she watched Jake grab Angela's arm with unnecessary force. Pulling her to the side of the car, Angela stumbled slightly, catching herself against the doorframe. "That's enough," Sarah blurted out, stepping forward, her voice trembling but her stance firm. "She hasn't done anything wrong." Jake glared at her. "Stay out of this, rookie." Angela straightened her jacket, meeting Jake's gaze head-on. "This is harassment, Officer Miller," she said, her voice steady. "I know my rights." Jake smirked, leaning closer. "Out here, rights are what I say they are." Angela's jaw tightened, but she didn't back down. Sarah, standing just a few feet away, felt a rush of conflicting emotions: fear, anger, and a growing sense of responsibility. This wasn't just a routine stop. This was something bigger. The tension around the car felt like a storm about to break. Jake tightened his grip on Angela's arm as he pushed her closer to the side of the car. Her bag tumbled from her shoulder, its contents spilling onto the pavement: keys, a phone, a small notepad. Angela exhaled sharply, but she maintained her composure. "This is completely unnecessary," Angela said, her tone sharp but controlled. "I've complied with everything you've asked." Jake sneered, crouching down to rummage through her belongings without permission. His movements were deliberate, calculated, as if he were searching for something to justify his behavior. "What's a woman like you doing driving a car like this?" he muttered. Sarah stepped closer, her hands clenched at her sides. "Jake, this isn't protocol. We don't have probable cause to search her things. Jake waved her off, not even bothering to look up. You've got a lot to learn. Rookie, this is how you keep the streets clean. Angela's voice hardened. Officer Miller, you are violating my rights. You have no reason to search my property. Jake stood up straight, holding up one of her credit cards as if it were a piece of incriminating evidence. Don't lecture me, lady. You're in my town now. A small crowd began to gather on the sidewalk, their murmurs growing louder. Several people had their phones out, recording the scene. Angela noticed but kept her eyes fixed on Jake, refusing to look away. Sarah's heart sank as she saw Jake step back toward the car, his hand slipping into his pocket. Her pulse quickened when she noticed a small plastic bag between his fingers. A bag he hadn't taken from Angela's belongings. Jake, Sarah hissed, her voice barely audible. What are you doing? He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned into the car and slipped the bag under the driver's seat. Turning back to the crowd, he held up his hands dramatically, as if he'd just found a treasure. Well, Jake announced loudly, holding up the bag of white powder for everyone to see. Looks like we've got a little drug situation here. Angela's eyes widened, a mix of shock and anger flashing across her face. That's not mine, she stated firmly, stepping towards him. You just planted that in my car. Jake smirked, his expression dripping with mockery. That's a nice story, Ms. Davis, but it's not the truth. The crowd murmured louder, their voices filled with disbelief. Sarah felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She had seen it happen. Jake had planted the evidence. She knew it was wrong, knew she should say something. But fear kept her rooted in place. Angela turned to Sarah, her eyes pleading. You saw what he did. Please say something. Sarah's throat tightened, her voice trapped somewhere between her conscience and her fear of retaliation. She could feel Jake's eyes on her, daring her to speak out. Stay quiet, his gaze seemed to say, or you'll regret it. But Sarah couldn't shake the image of Jake slipping the bag into Angela's car. Her father's words echoed in her mind, a lesson he'd drilled into her since she was a child. Integrity isn't easy, but it's what makes you a good person. Jake, Sarah said, her voice trembling but audible. This isn't right. Jake spun around, his face dark with anger. You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Angela stood tall, her voice steady despite the anger coursing through her. You can't intimidate your way out of this. I know exactly what's happening here. And so does your partner. Jake stepped closer to Angela, his hand resting ominously near his holster. You think you're untouchable because you drive a nice car? Let me tell you something. Out here, I'm the one with the power. That's enough, Sarah shouted, louder than she intended. Her heart pounded in her chest. But she didn't back down. You're crossing the line. The crowd had grown larger, and the weight of their stares bore down on the scene. Jake hesitated, glancing around at the onlookers. He clenched his jaw but said nothing. Angela took a deep breath and looked at Sarah, her voice calm but firm. Thank you for speaking up. But this isn't over. Sarah nodded, a spark of determination flickering in her chest. For the first time, she felt like she had the courage to take a stand. Jake's face twisted into a sneer as he turned his attention back to Angela. The crowd was still watching, phones raised, recording every second. He leaned close to Angela, his voice low, a growl meant only for her ears. You think you're smarter than me? You think these people are going to help you? Angela met his gaze head on. I don't think. Officer Miller, I know I'm smarter than you. And you just made the biggest mistake of your career. Jake's composure cracked for a moment, but he quickly masked it with a sneer. He pulled his handcuffs from his belt, stepping towards Angela. You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance. Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. This was it, the moment she had to choose between her career and her conscience. Her father's words echoed in her mind. If you don't stand up for what's right, you're just as guilty as the ones doing wrong. No, Sarah said abruptly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. She stepped between Jake and Angela, raising her hands defensively. This isn't right, and you know it. Jake's face flushed with anger. Step aside, rookie. Don't make me report you for insubordination. Sarah's voice trembled, but she didn't move. You planted that evidence. I saw you do it. I'm not going to be a part of this. The crowd gasped, a wave of shock rippling through the onlookers. Angela's eyes softened slightly, meeting Sarah's. "Thank you," she said quietly. Jake's anger surged. He stepped closer to Sarah, jabbing a finger into her chest. "You're finished. You hear me? I'll make sure you never wear that badge again." Sarah squared her shoulders, summoning every ounce of courage she had. "If that's the price I have to pay for doing the right thing, then so be it." Angela, sensing the moment reaching its climax, decided to speak up. "Officer Miller," she said, her voice steady and commanding, "you might want to think carefully about your next move." Jake scoffed. "Oh, yeah? And why is that?" Angela reached into her jacket pocket, her movements slow and deliberate. Both officers tensed, but she didn't waver. She pulled out a leather badge wallet and flipped it open, revealing her credentials. "My name is Captain Angela Davis," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "I'm the new commanding officer of this precinct." For a moment, the entire scene fell silent. Jake stared at the badge, his mouth agape like a fish out of water. Sarah felt her knees weaken as the weight of the revelation hit her. No way," Jake stammered, his confidence shattered. You can't be." Angela cut him off. "You didn't even bother to ask who I was before deciding I was a criminal. Did you? But it doesn't matter who I am. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, not judged by the color of their skin or the car they drive." Jake's face paled as the crowd began to murmur, some cheering, others shouting angrily at him. The reality of what he had done, of what had just been exposed, seemed to dawn on him. Sarah took a small step back, her mind reeling. Angela turned to her, her expression softening. "Officer Jones, I'm grateful you found the courage to speak up. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do." Sarah swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "I should have done it sooner. I'm sorry." Angela nodded, a slight smile on her lips. "You did it when it mattered. That's what counts." Jake, still in shock, finally found his voice. "Captain, I can explain." "No," Angela cut him off sharply. "You can't. What you did today goes against everything this badge represents. Hand over your weapon and your badge. You're suspended immediately." Jake's hands trembled as he unclipped his badge and holster. He glared at Angela, his face twisted with anger and disbelief. "You can't do this. This is my turf, my team." Angela didn't even look at him as she replied, "Not anymore." The crowd cheered as officers reluctantly led Jake away. Some shouted words of support for Angela while others demanded justice for the countless people Jake had wronged over the years. Angela turned to the crowd, her voice ringing out. "This is just the beginning," she said, her tone resolute. "Today, we stood up against corruption and prejudice. But it doesn't stop here. We all have to demand accountability and ensure our system works for everyone." The crowd responded with applause and shouts of agreement. Sarah felt a lump in her throat as she realized the significance of the moment. This wasn't just about Angela or Jake. It was about a community reclaiming its faith in those sworn to protect them. As the scene began to settle, Angela approached Sarah, her expression softening. "You did the right thing today," she said. "I know it wasn't easy." Angela placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You did a good thing. Integrity is what defines us, not a badge." Sarah blinked back tears, feeling a sense of pride she hadn't felt since joining the force. For the first time, she understood the true meaning of serving and protecting. This story serves as a warning about the abuse of power within law enforcement, emphasizing the importance of integrity as Sarah Jones stands up against her wrongdoing colleague. It also illustrates how racial prejudice perpetuates injustice, while calling for accountability from those in positions of power. Ultimately, the story conveys hope that courageous individuals can make a difference. If you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling and meaningful stories. Your support is a great motivation for us to continue delivering quality content.